Yeah, good day everyone, Steve Briggs here. So today's video will be based on setting up DHCP on a router that is doing route on a stick. And with that DHCP, it will be able to disperse IP addresses to the specific devices on the specific VLANs. So before I go into that, let me just clarify. We'll have a normal scenario like this here: a router, a server, and a switch. When we set up the DHCP server, what happens is that the IP addresses that are distributed are all sent to VLAN 1. So all devices on VLAN 1 communicate with each other here, and all of them receive information from the router here. But remember, when you actually set up VLANs, specific VLANs like 5 VLAN, 10, 5, 15, whatever the case may be, you segment networks. So if it is I segment this network here and then I segment this network here, you know that for a fact that, okay, if I set up DHCP across here, it cannot work across here because it will be on two different networks. So if I run a 172.16.1 here, 10.10.10.10 will not work. It would not work across on this end here unless I set up a separate DHCP. And basically that is what router on a stick does. It separates the network, and then when you put the DHCP now, the DHCP assigns the IP address to the specific device in the specific VLAN. So we'll go into that configuration here immediately. So before we do that, I'll show the virtual interfaces where we have DHCP set up. Not DHCP, but the IP address assigned. So we have VLAN 5 and 10. VLAN 15, which is this interface, I just did that as a demonstration later on to show what will happen if you set up DHCP and you don't have the VLAN assigned. So I will go to the config terminal. We're going to set up DHCP now. IP DHCP excluded address. This is critical because if you don't, you're going to get conflict. Device is going to pull these IP addresses, and these are the IP addresses you don't want devices to pull, and most of the time that is the gateway, the IP address for the interface. So I've assigned an IP address here. I'm going to do the IP DHCP pool. I'll name the site 5 network 192.168.1.0. critical now. Subnet mask. The subnet will determine how many IP addresses that the DHCP will be able to disperse. That's why I have this little chart thing here. So if you use a /30, that's a subnet mask of 252. So therefore you will only be able to get 2 usable IP addresses, because the two other addresses one will be for the network and one will be for the host. So in total you get 4, but you could only use 2. A /29 will give you a 255, 255, 255, to 248. Basically you will get 8 IP addresses, but only 6 of them will be usable. And as with the slash notations, you will see how many usable IP addresses you can get. Now that's why it's critical when you're doing with subnetting with DHCP. Now you as a network admin or IT personnel, you may say, okay, we have 56 devices, so I really need to put an IP DHCP scope that will accommodate these 56 devices. Now if you use a /27, what will happen here is that you will only accommodate 30 devices. So therefore not every device will get an IP address. So the feasible thing to do is use the /26, which will give you 62 IP addresses. You wouldn't really want to go to the /25 and 24 because you'll have wastage with networking addresses and IP addresses. Something you wouldn't really want to, you shouldn't practice. You should start working in a network, in a system that look at the scheme, look at in terms of future upgrades, and if you will need more IP addresses, and if you realize that if you are going from 56 to 100 and something addresses within the next year, work with the /25 also, or you go straight to the 24, or you could go to 23, which will give you 510 IP addresses, and the list goes on and so forth. So with here now, you are using the /24, which is at 255.255.0, the default route, which is 192.168.1.1. And basically, if you want to do the DNS, I'll just do it for this one, DNS server. It will be the address of the server, where the server is located. I just put in a random IP address. So I will go to the next configuration for VLAN 10. This is for VLAN 5. So I'll do IP DHCP excluded address 172.16.1.1 IP DHCP pool. I'll name it site 10 network 172.16.1.1. no, 0 is the network address, not 1 will be actually the IP address of the interface. And with subnetting, 1 will not be, it cannot use 1 cannot identify the network. So we have 255.255.255.0. we do the default route, which is critical, because if you don't put in that, you cannot route out the devices going to the router will not know where to exit. And we are finished there. So we will end here now, and I will show running configuration. So we have the two DHCPs set up here. I will do show IP interface fast0 0/0.5. Now when we look at this here now, it shows the IP address of the it shows the internet address and all these other stuff here. This is a virtual interface. Okay, so I will do a show IP interface brief now to just make sure everything is up and running. I will also do the DHCP, which is for VLAN 15, and I'll show something here. So we'll do IP DHCP excluded address 10.10.10.1 IP DHCP pool. I'll name it site 15 network 10.10.10.10.0 over 255.255.255.0 default router 10.10.10.1. Now the DHCP we set up here, it correlates in the sense that with the virtual interfaces. So when the devices go out to the router now to get that IP address, it goes to the specific virtual interface because of the configuration that was done to that interface, the encapsulation. So that encapsulation, the .iq, and the number after that encapsulation is what says, listen, this interface is assigned to VLAN 5. So whatever IP addresses I am sending, when it reaches the switch will know, listen, this IP address scheme is for VLAN 5. Whenever it sends from, when the router sends the IP address scheme from the fast Ethernet 0/0.10, the switch will know that, listen, the IP address scheme that is coming here is for VLAN 10 because of the .iq encapsulation. Okay, so I will go to the devices now to show the DHCP that we actually getting the DHCP because of the VLAN configurations. So we have these two devices here communicating. We already pulled VLANs here already. I will go to the other VLAN 10 now, and we see we are pulling the 172.16.1. We are pulling from the 172.16.1.0 network. And with this now, it creates that ease, so you don't have to do all those static IP addresses. You realize it didn't pull also from the VLAN 10. the VLAN 10 network, sorry, not VLAN 10, sorry, VLAN 15 network, because on the switch itself we haven't configured a VLAN 15. And if we configure a VLAN 15, we don't have a port to it, but I will do it quickly just to show. Configure VLAN 10. I wouldn't name it or anything like that. The switch will do that by default. I will do interface FA0/6 switch port mode access switch port access VLAN 15. Oh my, what did I do? I did VLAN 10. Oh, well, actually that was a mistake I made here. I was supposed to create VLAN 5, but what is going to happen here is that when I enter this, it is said no VLAN was not created, and it will create the VLAN for me. So it does not exist. It created the VLAN 15. So this initially was supposed to be VLAN 15 and not 10. I already have VLAN 10 created, and if I show VLANs, we will see that VLAN 10 is here already, and it created the VLAN 15 and it assigned the interface. Now all I have to do here now is get a device and connect it to fast Ethernet 0/6, connect it to the PC, wait, let it the port brings up itself on the switch, and we will see the connectivity. But with this here now, always remember what your range is. As we go down the list, the IP addresses, the number of hosts that you want will increase. This goes straight down till you reach up to like class A. Class A is when you're dealing with millions of IP addresses. That is for like very large networks. So we have the PC here now, and if I go now and I select DHCP, you see it pull actually from the 10.10.10, where it will be the .0 network, because of the interface, the configuration I placed. And this here now, it stated, listen, this is the .15, which is VLAN 15 standard. This number could be different, but when you do the actual encapsulation, the number that you put there will be in relation to the VLAN on the switch. So I just hope that this video was informative for y'all, and you can comment and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.